The credit card hit the counter. The name faced up. The seal behind him in line went pale, then dropped to one knee. Right there, in the middle of a coffee shop. And suddenly everyone understood why you never mock what you don't understand. What this barista didn't know about those shaking hands would change everything in the next 2 minutes. Watch what happens when a Navy SEAL recognizes a name from the history books. Type respect if you believe some battles never stop being fought. Courage isn't always loud. Sometimes it shakes. Sometimes it trembles. Sometimes it struggles to hold a cup of coffee. Keep watching. This story proves why. His name was Frank Castellano, 79 years old. Silver hair, weathered face, and hands that trembled like leaves in a storm. Not from age, not from weakness, from memories that lived in his nervous system. From 6 hours that changed everything in 1968. The coffee shop was busy. Morning rush at Riverside Cafe in Coronado, California. Young professionals grabbing lattes before work, fitness enthusiasts ordering protein smoothies, and Frank Castellano standing at the counter, trying to order a simple black coffee. "Medium black coffee, please." His voice was steady, even if his hands weren't. Riley Chen looked up from her phone. 23 years old, 6 months at Riverside Cafe, studying communications at San Diego State. Worked mornings to pay tuition, had seen hundreds of customers, had developed opinions about all of them. She saw the trembling immediately, saw the worn jacket, the faded jeans, the old man who probably came in for the senior discount and would pay an exact change. "That'll be $3.50. Riley set the cup on the counter. Didn't smile, didn't make eye contact. Just transaction. "Next customer. Keep the line moving." Frank reached for his wallet. The simple act of pulling it from his pocket took concentration. His hands shook harder when he was tired, when he hadn't slept, when the dreams came back. He fumbled with the wallet, dropped it. It hit the floor. Riley sighed. Audibly. "Sir, there's a line." Frank bent down slowly. His knees protested. Everything protested these days. He retrieved the wallet, tried to pull out his credit card. His fingers wouldn't cooperate. "Do you need help?" Riley's tone made it clear she didn't want to help, made it clear she was annoyed. "I've got it." Frank's jaw tightened. Just slightly. Pride, dignity, the same qualities that had kept him alive in Vietnam. Behind him, the line was growing. 6 people now. 7. Morning rush didn't wait for anyone. A younger woman, maybe 30, shifted impatiently, checked her watch. Frank could feel the pressure, the judgment, the assumption that he was just a slow old man holding everyone up. He finally extracted the credit card, held it out. His hand shook so badly the card rattled against the counter. Riley took it and laughed. Not a full laugh, just a small sound. Half laugh, half scoff. The kind of sound that said she found something amusing, something pathetic. "Rough night?" She said it loud enough for others to hear, implying alcohol, implying weakness. Frank's eyes met hers. For just a second. Those eyes that had seen things Riley couldn't imagine, done things that would break her understanding of reality. Something like that. Riley swiped the card, the machine processing. She glanced at the name on the card. Castellano, Frank. Didn't mean anything to her. Just another senior citizen with shaky hands. But it meant something to the man standing 3 customers back in line. Jake Morrison, 34 years old, Navy SEAL, SEAL Team 3, 13 years in service, 3 deployments. The kind of operator who'd studied every piece of SEAL history, every battle, every legend, every name that mattered. He'd been checking his phone, not paying attention to the line, just waiting for coffee before heading to base. But something made him look up, made him focus. Maybe it was Riley's laugh. Maybe it was the trembling hands. Maybe it was the old man's bearing, the way Frank stood despite the struggle, the way he maintained dignity despite the disrespect. Jake watched Frank try to sign the receipt. The pen shook in his grip. The signature was barely legible. "Sir, I can't read that." Riley pushed the receipt back. "It's my signature. I need to be able to read it for verification." Frank tried again. Slower, more concentration. The trembling made every letter a battle. But he finished, pushed the receipt toward Riley. She picked it up, squinted at it, then noticed something. The name, Castellano. Something about it. She'd heard it before. Maybe. Is that supposed to say Castellano? It says Castellano. Okay. Riley filed the receipt, slid the coffee toward him, already looking past him. Next. Frank reached for the coffee. His hands shook. The cup wobbled. Coffee sloshed over the rim, burned his fingers. He jerked back. The cup tipped, fell. Coffee splashed across the counter, onto the floor. Riley jumped back. "Are you serious?" "I'm sorry." Frank's voice was quiet, embarrassed. "I'll clean it up." "No, I'll clean it up. Just go. Here." Riley grabbed another cup, filled it hastily, slammed it on the counter. "Take it. Free, just be more careful." The condescension in her voice was clear. The implication that Frank was incompetent, clumsy, a burden. Frank took the cup carefully, both hands, steadied himself, started to turn toward the door. That's when Jake Morrison stepped out of line. He'd been processing, connecting, the name, the age, the shaking hands, the way Frank carried himself, the bearing that screamed military despite the trembling, despite the worn clothes. Jake had studied Vietnam SEAL operations, had memorized the names, the missions, the legends that paved the way for modern SEAL teams. And one name stood out above almost all others. One operation that was impossible. One man who'd done something that defied belief. "Excuse me, sir?" Jake's voice cut through the coffee shop noise. Frank turned, saw a younger man. Fit, military haircut, the look of active duty. Jake stepped closer. His eyes went to Frank's hands, to the trembling, to the coffee cup gripped tight, then back to Frank's face. "Sir, what's your name?" "Frank Castellano," said it with the same dignity he'd maintained through Riley's disrespect. Jake's face went white. Then he did something that made the entire coffee shop stop. He dropped to one knee. Right there, in the middle of Riverside Cafe, head bowed. "Sir, Petty Officer Jake Morrison, SEAL Team 3. Sir, it is an honor." The coffee shop went silent, everyone staring. Riley's mouth fell open. Frank looked down at the kneeling SEAL. Confused. "Son, get up. You don't need to." "Sir, with respect, I absolutely do need to." Jake stood, but his posture remained reverent, respectful. "You're the Frank Castellano? Lima Charlie Castellano, Operation Crimson Tide?" Frank's expression shifted, something between discomfort and resignation. That was a long time ago. 57 years ago. February 1968, outside Hughes City. Jake's voice carried across the silent coffee shop. Every eye on them now. "Sir, you're a legend. They teach your operation at Bud S. They use it as an example of what one SEAL can do against impossible odds." Riley was frozen behind the counter. What's happening?" Jake didn't look at her, kept his eyes on Frank. "Ma'am, this man is one of the greatest warriors in SEAL history, and you just mocked him for having shaky hands." I didn't know. That's the problem." Jake's voice was steel now. "You didn't know. So you judged, you assumed, you laughed at a man who earned more respect in 6 hours than most people earn in a lifetime." Frank tried to interrupt. "Son, really, it's not necessary." "Sir, it's absolutely necessary." Jake turned to address the entire coffee shop. Everyone watching, listening. February 12, 1968. This man was part of a 6-man SEAL team providing reconnaissance outside Hughes City during the Tet Offensive. They were compromised, ambushed by North Vietnamese regulars. Battalion strength, over 200 enemy fighters. The coffee shop was dead silent. You could hear the espresso machine hissing in the background. 5 SEALs were killed in the initial ambush. Frank Castellano was the only survivor. He was hit twice, once in the shoulder, once in the leg. He should have died, should have been overrun. Any reasonable person would have tried to escape. Jake's voice got quieter, more intense. But Lima Charlie Castellano didn't run. He had wounded team members, brothers, and intelligence that could save hundreds of American lives. So he did the impossible. He held that position, alone, for 6 hours. Riley's hand covered her mouth. Other customers were pulling out phones, recording, listening. 6 hours, Jake repeated. 1 SEAL, wounded, against 200 enemy fighters. He used terrain, used tactics, moved constantly so they couldn't fix his position, made them think there were multiple defenders, called in air support on his own position 3 times to keep them back, fought until extraction arrived, brought out his teammates' bodies, brought out the intelligence, saved God knows how many lives. Frank's eyes were wet. I did what any SEAL would do. No, sir, you did what only you could do. They gave you the Navy Cross, the Silver Star, 3 Purple Hearts. They wanted to give you the Medal of Honor, but you refused because you said your team deserved it more. Jake's voice cracked. Sir, your hands shake because you held off an entire battalion for 6 hours, because you carried 200 pounds of equipment and wounded teammates, because you fired so many rounds your rifle barrel melted, because you survived something that should have been impossible. Jake turned to Riley, his expression hard. Those shaking hands. That's not weakness. That's not incompetence. That's what happens when your nervous system is permanently altered by combat stress, by 6 hours of sustained combat, by doing the impossible and paying the price for it every single day for 57 years. Riley couldn't speak, tears streaming down her face. Every SEAL knows his name, Jake continued. Lima Charlie Castellano, legend, hero, the man who proved that 1 SEAL, properly trained and absolutely committed, could accomplish the impossible. We study his tactics. We learn his decision-making. We use his operation as proof that missions don't fail if the operator refuses to quit. An older man in the corner stood up, Vietnam veteran patch on his jacket. I was there, different unit. We heard about Lima Charlie on the radio. Thought it was myth. 1 man holding off a battalion. Impossible. But the air support pilots confirmed it, kept saying he's still fighting, like they couldn't believe it either. The veteran approached Frank, extended his hand. Brother, I never thought I'd meet you. Thank you. Whatever intelligence you saved, whatever you did out there, thank you. Frank shook his hand, his own hand still trembling. You too, brother. More customers were standing now. A woman, maybe 45, tears in her eyes. My father was evacuated from Hughes City. He always said SEALs saved his unit, gave them advance warning about enemy positions. Was that? Maybe, Frank said quietly. A lot of teams did a lot of work, but you did 6 hours worth. Jake wouldn't let him minimize it. Sir, modern SEAL training includes scenario simulations based on your operation. They call it the Castellano Protocol, how to fight outnumbered, how to use terrain and tactics against superior forces, how to refuse defeat even when defeat seems certain. Riley stepped out from behind the counter, mascara running, voice shaking. Mr. Castellano, sir, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I just thought, you thought I was just an old man who couldn't hold a cup. Frank's voice wasn't angry, just tired. It's okay. Most people don't understand, can't understand. It's not okay. Riley's voice was firm despite the tears. I was disrespectful, I was cruel, and you didn't deserve that. No one deserves that, especially not someone who... She couldn't finish. Jake stepped in. Ma'am, do you understand what PTSD does? Do you understand what sustained combat does to the nervous system? Those shaking hands are a wound just as real as the bullet scars, more permanent than the Purple Hearts. Every time he picks up a cup, he's fighting that battle again. Every time someone judges him for trembling, they're adding to a burden he's carried for 57 years. Riley nodded, couldn't speak. Your coffee, Jake said to Frank, should be free here. Forever. Your meals, your everything. This cafe is 3 blocks from SEAL Base. We come here every day, and if management knew who you were, you'd never pay for anything again. Frank smiled slightly. I can pay for my coffee, son. I know you can, sir, but you shouldn't have to. Not here, not anywhere. Jake pulled out his phone. Sir, may I take a photo? My team would lose their minds knowing I met you. My instructor at Barista talked about you like you were a myth. Seeing you here in person, sir, it would mean everything to my team. Frank hesitated, then nodded. Sure. Jake positioned them. Other SEALs from the line joined in. 3 of them, all standing with Frank, all honored just to be in the photograph with him. Riley watched from behind the counter. The coffee shop manager had emerged from the back. Older man, retired Navy. Riley, what's happening? That man, Riley pointed at Frank with a shaking hand, is a Navy SEAL legend. And I mocked him. I laughed at his shaking hands. I treated him like... She couldn't finish. The manager's face went pale. Lima Charlie Castellano, here, in my shop? Yes, sir. The manager walked directly to Frank. Stood at attention. Sir, Master Chief Petty Officer Richard Torres, retired. Sir, it is a profound honor to have you in my establishment. Your coffee is free, always, and I apologize for my employee's behavior. She will be educated about what service means. She didn't know, Frank said. No harm done. There was harm, sir. Disrespect to a warrior of your caliber is unacceptable. Torres turned to Riley. Conference, now, back office. 20 minutes later, Riley emerged, eyes red, face puffy, but resolved. She approached Frank, who was sitting at a table with Jake and the other SEALs. They were asking questions, listening to stories. Jake was recording on his phone. Mr. Castellano. Riley's voice was small. Sir, I've been educated about your service, about what you did, about what your hands represent. I cannot apologize enough. I was ignorant, cruel, and completely wrong. Frank looked up at her, those eyes that had seen impossible things. We all make mistakes, Riley. Learn from it. That's all anyone can do. I will, sir. I promise. She handed him a card. This is a lifetime pass. Free coffee, free food, anytime, forever. From management, with our deepest respect and gratitude. Frank took the card. Thank you. Riley went back to the counter, but everything had changed. The way she looked at customers, the way she assessed people, the way she understood that you never really know who's standing in front of you. Over the next weeks, word spread. Lima Charlie Castellano's photo with SEAL Team 3 went viral in military circles. The story of the coffee shop incident spread. And Frank Castellano, who'd spent 57 years trying to be invisible, found himself recognized wherever he went in Coronado. Not for pity, not for his shaking hands, for what those hands had accomplished, for the 6 hours that proved one man could be enough, for carrying a burden that most people couldn't imagine. Riley kept the photo on her phone, Frank and the 4 SEALs, all smiling, all honored just to be in the same frame. She looked at it every time she felt impatient with a customer, every time she wanted to judge based on appearance. It reminded her. Some hands shake because they held rifles for 6 hours straight against impossible odds. Some people struggle with simple tasks because they accomplished impossible ones. Some wounds are invisible but permanent, and respect should always be the default, not the exception. Not something earned through explanation, but something offered freely because you never know what battles someone has fought, what burdens they carry, what impossible things they've done. Frank Castellano's hands would shake for the rest of his life, but they were warriors' hands, hands that saved lives, hands that refused to quit, hands that proved courage isn't about strength, it's about continuing even when everything trembles, even when the simple act of holding a cup feels like combat. Because some battles never end, they just change form. And the warriors who fought them deserve our respect, always, without question, without requiring them to prove anything. Those shaking hands held the line, and because of that, other hands didn't have to. If this story moved you, the next one will leave you speechless. It's about a parking enforcement officer who ticketed a car with veteran plates during a memorial service, until she saw what was sitting on the dashboard and realized the driver wasn't coming back. The entire police department stood at attention. Subscribe for more stories of hidden warriors who deserve recognition. Comment, respect if you believe invisible wounds deserve visible respect. And hit that like button if you think service comes in forms we can't always see. Share this with someone who needs to remember, never judge the shaking hands until you know what they've held.